Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Good to be here, Scott.
People are reading your shirt. They're getting the size of, getting the feel for what you're about. You are a cannabis oil practitioner, and you're also known as the Happy Holistic.
Yes.
And where do those two meet?
Well, what's interesting is I've been in natural health for almost 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I've got certifications, and my practice has always been more nutrition-based, but I'm always open to whatever is the best and whatever works holistically, because we are mentally connected, we are physically connected, spiritually. It's all part of health.
Yeah.
And when I was first introduced to cannabis, I didn't believe it at first.
How long ago was that?
Probably about 2012. I started doing the research. I heard some
year.
interviews and I started digging. It took me a while to get over my cognitive dissonance, but I made it.
So
with
you had
cannabis.
something against pot?
Well, I didn't have anything against it, but I didn't really believe it could be therapeutic.
Okay.
As I found through my research, I knew it was good for nausea for chemo patients and pain, obviously,
right.
But I had no idea therapeutically it could be what it is. What's interesting is my name was the Happy Holistic before I discovered cannabis.
Okay.
So it kind of works out, that name kind of fits it. But
okay.
Yeah, it's been a wild journey for me on this path.
So many people know that the symptoms of chemotherapy are alleviated by cannabis.
Yes.
But now we're finding that there is help beyond that for the actual cancer.
Yeah, so there have been all kinds of PubMed studies that have shown this. Of course, they're preclinical because of Schedule I, you're not allowed to do these studies with humans for the most part.
Which is it's a catch-22.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the government has prevented a lot of this, but we have so many studies, and the first government study in 1974 showed it reduced tumors in rats. And of course, these studies were designed during the war on drugs to prove it was harmful. So that makes it even more powerful.
So the rats' tumors were reduced?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, their lifespan was increased. And we have studies from all over the world that back up this basic research. We know on a mechanistic level how it works to actually kill cancer cells. So we actually know there's the endocannabinoid system in the human body, which was only discovered 30 years ago, and cannabis acts on this system. The components, the THC, the CBD, even some of the terpenes like BCP will act on the system. Cancer cells present more of these receptors. So this system is targeting these cells for destruction because the body knows they're not there. The problem is the body is in such a weak state that the immune system can't kill these cancer cells and lead it to remission. When we flood the body with cannabis oil over a period of months, we can actually put it in remission and keep it there. And when I started working with patients, that really opened my eyes, because you can read all the studies in the world, until you see it in real life, it really doesn't hit home.
It's amazing. Someone would think, oh, okay, you're a cannabis advocate and you're saying it helps with cancer, but anyone hearing you speak for more than 20 seconds is going to hear you're well-informed, well-educated on this. Yeah. So you were already a holistic practitioner, then you found this, and you're like, okay, and then people with stage 3 and 4 cancer started coming to you when the doctors told them no more chemo is even going to work for you.
Yes.
So then what happens?
There are a lot of famous cases out there on the internet you can find of people who have done this and they have their meds to prove it. So it's just been I was a skeptic at first, like I told you. It took me a while before this information sunk in.
Yeah.
I actually met a woman with lung cancer who used cannabis on my recommendation, and I was amazed. I met her a year later and she was in remission from lung cancer. It works amazingly fast on lung cancer.
Now, they're taking an oil? How does that work?
Yeah, so primarily smoking it is not the way you want to do it medically.
Okay.
It does have some benefit. So if you're going to get the raw form, because you smoke anything, you destroy a lot of the cannabinoids and the properties that you want, the healing properties.
So smoking it takes away a lot of the healing properties of cannabis.
Yes, and there are toxins that are released.
Yeah.
Edibles, they can be good for older people or people who are not into doing the oil, but medically they're not as effective.
Okay.
The best form that we found so far is what's kind of known as Rick Simpson oil, colloquial, because he's the one who kind of invented the use of this for his own cancer. He treated his own cancer 30 years ago. But this oil is a very concentrated, almost a resin paste, and it's super concentrated. So Typically a half gram to a gram for cancer patients is the dose you're going to want. It's different for everybody.
Every day?
But, well, if you have cancer, if you have advanced cancer, you're going to do it every day until it's gone. Then you can do a maintenance dose. But there's only a few things you need that much for. Typical prevention or most diseases or conditions you have can be remediated with just a small dose. In fact, you can microdose THC every day, not be high at all, not have any effects, and get that medicine and it working on all these different conditions. What's really eye-opening is that because it acts on this system in the body that most doctors have no idea about because they're not taught about it.
Right.
Most people have no idea about this system, but it actually controls all the other body systems. So it's not only going to act on the cancer, which is out of balance, it's going to work on anything that's out of balance in the body. That's why it works on so many other conditions, and we see people who, depression, anxiety, mental conditions, that people who are on opiates and alcohol, it's a perfect withdrawal mechanism because, for instance, opiates, cannabis actually has a cross between the endocannabinoids and the opiate receptors. You can cut the opiates in half immediately with no side effects using cannabis. So it allows them to draw down, but also you're dealing with the depression that people get with opiate and alcohol abuse. It can be very strong, the withdrawal symptoms you're dealing with, but also the damage that's done. So you get tremendous damage to the liver and brain after years of this addictive abuse.
Sure.
And the cannabis will actually go in and help remediate the damage to the liver, to liver disease in general, to the brain.
Okay. Can you give any numbers without we're not making medical claims, but can you give any numbers of how many people that have come to you, stage 3 or stage 4, that have gone into remission? I mean, percentages?
Well, over the last couple of years, probably at least 50 to 100.
50 to 100? Well, okay, so over 50%
And the
of
woman, I work with a woman who makes her own oil locally, and she's been doing this longer, so she actually has a longer track record for cancer. I typically work with more of the smaller dosages and the different conditions. So it can be anything from anxiety to sleep, COPD, stroke. It's really good for stroke. It can reduce the symptoms of a stroke by half.
If it's this good, what is the resistance of the medical establishment into looking into this more?
The resistance is multi-level. So, of course, the major resistance everybody has is the cognitive dissonance that they have. They think they know what cannabis is from growing up, being exposed to it. We all knew kids in school that abused it and were kind of stoners. Oh, it's an absolute bias. But it's also, when people understand, in my class I teach about the ancient use. So this has been used for 6,000 years around the world in all different cultures for medicinal, spiritual, and just overall holistic health. It's reliant in a lot of these cultures. And in the US it was used for 100 years before it was declared illegal. For 100 different conditions, there are medical textbooks that advocated the use of cannabis. You had ads for cannabis tinctures and candies.
What year was this?
Roughly 1840 to 1937 when the federal government declared it illegal. So cannabis was, the AMA was supporting it. You know, there were groups that were for it. There are so many groups against it. And you can just look at the states where cannabis has become legally, medically. All those states show the opiate rate has gone way down.
Okay.
Is reduced dramatically. So this is a big threat to Big Pharma and their model, because this is working on so many levels. It helps people with the side effects of everything.
Yeah. Which they can't stop. People want it, they're going to have it to alleviate those side effects.
Exactly.
Now there's more. Why are you so passionate about it?
I'm passionate.
You're serious about this.
Yeah, I'm really passionate because my eyes were open and I see the potential for this. I mean, we've only really scratched the surface. We're going to find ways to make this more effective and more personalized. So every one of us in this expo has a different endocannabinoid system based on our genetics and our experience, and that can be developed, but also there are specific things, different strains of cannabis that have different components, a mixture of cannabinoids and terpenes. They're going to be maybe more effective on me than they would you.
Okay.
And they're trying to find a way to test this and customize it, just like they do with epigenetics. You do the genetic testing that is done for people with their SNPs. Well, cannabis, personalized cannabis is the future, and they're going to figure out a better way to do it. The challenge is to keep this out of the hands of Big Pharma and the medical model, because the medical model does not want preventative health. They do not want us to be healthy. They want us to be sick, because that's it. The money model is built into that, unfortunately.
Right.
So it's not a good system. We have to deleverage out of that system, and cannabis is unique in that it can attack so many different things, but also it can help with our thinking. It can get us out of this static, conformist thinking and open our mind to other alternatives and possibilities, and it goes to neuroplasticity. This is actually scientifically proved too. We actually have studies, neuroplasticity, it helps grow brain cells. Older rats perform like young rats in mazes when they're on cannabis. Yeah, it actually changes their brains permanently. So for the older population, middle-aged and up, everybody should be on this in some form. You don't have to do THC, you can do CBD, but you can microdose the THC and not even feel the high effects. So.
Okay, there's so much more to learn here, I can tell.
Yeah.
People can go to your website, which is thehappyholistic.com.
And I teach classes on cannabis oil therapy. It's mostly practitioners of all types, doctors, nurses, chiros, anybody in natural health who wants to know how to use it for patients or people they love, or just learn more about it. It's an all-day class, and I do it about once a month in Southern California, but I'm looking to spread the knowledge of that everywhere. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
This was great.
Thank you so much.
Very great. I learned a lot. That's Kelly Brown, thehappyholistic.com, Radiance Magazine on the Expansion Network. Thank you.